How do you feel? What has led you to be able to maintain your focus in your?
Well, first of all, you need a goal, an objective that you know where to go. If you don't have an objective or a goal, you don't know where to go. So that's quite easy to answer. But the second thing is how to stay focused. I mean, that long. I mean, it's 11 years. It's not that long. There are people out there which are focused a lot longer. But you mentioned a lot of them. You need affirmation. You have to rebuild yourself when you have your downs. You have straighten you up when you fall. You have to stand up fast, and you have to be clear where you want to go. And if this fits for you and your personality, then I would say it's not easy, yes, but it's easier. It's easier. Especially I would say normal people, it's tougher to stay focused when they have money. Because with money you can buy a lot of shit. You can buy houses, cars, boats, planes, girls.
Yes.
So whatsoever, you can do a lot of not so lovely things with money, which distract you. And then it's really critical to stay focused. So the beginning is very easy because everybody's hungry at the beginning. After a while, when you earn money and your objective is to earn money, then normally you lose focus. You need another objective, another goal than money.
When I stayed focused about 10 years, almost to the day. And a majority of my net worth was made during those 10 years. And I worked ungodly hours, away from my family, etc. And then I relaxed, and I lost a bunch of money, and then I got focused again. And it's only 5 or 10% the difference between high performance and not high performance. Now, he, as a former great athlete, he knows that. I was never a great athlete. I didn't have any athletic skills. But I did know that I made it up with just putting in the hours. I know there's smarter ways to do it now. There's the computers and all that stuff. But I never got good at that. By the time when I made a majority of my own wealth, it was not before computers, but before all the tools and all the stuff that you can figure out in just a matter of a few seconds or a few minutes. The kids today, and I say this, back 30 years ago, you could do €100 million, £100 million, $100 million deal in about maximum 30 days with commercial banks, everything. That's before the computers. Now with computers, it takes you 45 to 60 days. And so that shouldn't be, but it is. And part and parcel of what we talk about at the seminar is why, even though we should be able to get stuff done a lot faster, vis-a-vis all the tools we have, it doesn't get done faster. And so today, starting tonight in the seminar, we're going to have 18 people from different parts of the world and different industries, although there's 2 or 3 from Markus's industry. But they asked me, how do I keep myself motivated? And Andrew Carnegie said, if you have to motivate your employees, they're not worth having. So I never needed any motivation. To the best of my knowledge, either did he. Although, I had some derogatory remarks early in his career about how he did stuff, but he just kept at it. He just kept at it. He just kept at it. And now, these 11 years later, he, is sitting on the top of a pot of gold that he wants to make much bigger, pot of gold. And that's the good news because, again, most people, as they ask me, how do you get up in the morning, Mr. Peña? Because I haven't had to work in 35 years. I get up because I continue, as Markus said, new goals, new aspirations, new affirmations, and trying to get, you kids, you meatheads, as I call you, across the goal line is a tough fucker. It's not easy. If I'd known that 28 years ago, I would have never made that as a goal. Because by this time, I ought to be sitting in a rocking chair, bouncing my grandkids on my knee. Well, I don't have the rocking chair. I do have the grandkids. And the good news is I don't bounce them on my knee. The bad news is, I'm not spending any time with them, and I'm not going to be around forever. But it is hard to stay focused. It is hard. And it's double hard to keep your people focused, keep your employees focused. Now, I use the carrot and the stick. The stick to beat them, and the carrot, the pot of gold out here. And I had to beat them to get to the pot of gold. Well, in today's society, the carrot everybody loves, but nobody likes the stick because of the PC, political correctness, that has enveloped like a virus humanity. So it makes it that much hard. But the good news is there are less people like Markus and myself that are state focused. So that means the pot of gold is bigger because there's less people trying to get it. And that's what the seminar is all about. And that's why in the last 20 months of Corona, our closing ratio on deals, the whole group of QLA mentees, is up about 95%. It's almost doubled. And the kids are exiting now, and they're pulling out anywhere on the low end, 22 million, on the high end, 70 million. Nobody's exited for hundreds yet, although we have a number of mentees that have created that, because then the other syndrome happens. You like sitting on a bigger entity as opposed to a smaller entity. You like the power that comes with it. And although I haven't seen it with Markus, I certainly have seen it with the other kids. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He alluded to it. And a lot of them go off the fucking deep end. And although I came close to going off the deep end many years ago, I didn't quite get to the cliff and fall over. But I know a lot of kids just can't help themselves. All of a sudden, when you have a lot of money, the girls, you're not any prettier, believe me, but the girls act like you're prettier, okay? And that's tough for guys. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And I suffered through that. I still remember, and Sally will attest to this, 20 years ago, the last time I gave a seminar before the one at the airport a year ago, outside the castle, a guru that you know came up to me, and there was Vinica standing next to me, Nesha, one of our lawyers, and Sally, and he said, in the voice I'm going to say, could you go lean up against my girlfriend over there? Because I told her she can't have sex with you, but you go over and blow in her ear. And Sally, Vinica, and Nesha all looked at me. Of course, I'm minding my own business. Because she wanted to be with somebody who was rich, supposedly, and not supposedly, richer than he was. And I'm sure he's had his own offers. We're not going to say it on film, but it's a big distraction for the guys. The girls have a whole other set of distractions. I'm not so sure I would be such a goody two-shoes girl if I was a female. But what do you think is the hardest thing? And we talked about focus, we talked about energy, we've talked about, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The most important thing for a kid, a guy or a gal, that is going to venture out on this QLA trail of creating generational wealth, what's the most important thing that they should keep in mind?
At the beginning, you need self-esteem and belief in yourself, because it's so unusual. If you go out in this world and you learn the concept, how it should be done here in the QLA seminar and what you should set up, and then you come back and then you talk with your lawyers and then you talk with your accountant, and they're going to tell you, what the fuck are you talking about? What is wrong with you? Who is this castle man? Whatever you're going to... So that's really the first speed bump which you have to overcome. And for that, to overcome that, first of all, you have to have belief in something. You have to believe in the system. You have to believe basically in something. Because if you don't have belief, it's hard to believe in the system. But if you have belief and then self-esteem, then you can overcome this first speed bump. Even though Mr. Peña does right now a hell of a job to convince all the people here that it's easy, because he shows all the successes. He shows the people which have done it, show the numbers basically from the deals and how the people have done it. And so that might help quite a lot. But that's the first two speed bumps where you have to overcome. And then secondly, when you have done your first deal, that's always the measurement. First deal, is it done quite right or quite wrong? If it's wrong, you are toasted. If you have done it rightly and you follow the concept, then you are basically in the game, in the company buying game, call it whatever you want. And if you're in, then it's very, very important that you make no big mistakes. So there will be mistakes. You have to make mistakes to grow, to get further. But you should not buy a total hole, so to say, which gonna put you underwater and you call bankruptcy. So that's the next step. After you have done quite a few deals, then all of a sudden you have to become a leader and lead your people, which lead the companies, and they have to deliver the number which you said they deliver. And that's the next bump where you have to go over, and so on. So it's always the next level. But for the beginning, believe in yourself, believe in the system, and self-esteem that you can overcome the no's.
At the last seminar, we had a guy who did a deal before he got here. He didn't do 100% of everything wrong, but almost 100% of everything wrong. And he put his own money in, but he made $400,000 or $500,000, fucking it up. And so he was the guy that the seminar attendees wanted. They ignored the fact that he did it wrong. They only focused on the fact that he made $480,000 on the deal. And so I teased him the whole seminar. And he says, but if I'd done it right, I would have made $750,000. And so, so that resonated in him. And hopefully, touch wood, he's doing them right now. But once, it's easier for you when you're just operating on your own to deliver because you're not accountable to anybody else but yourself. And you don't have other people reporting to you in the beginning. But as he said, that second or third speed bump is when you have people having to do what you tell them to do when you want them to do it, not when they feel like doing it. That's hard, and that's leadership. And most of the kids that come here, even the ones that have self-esteem, lack leadership. Because in today's corporate world, or the world at large, leadership isn't a commodity that's, praised that much. There was a survey just before I came over here to be filmed. A survey came out, not Gallup poll, but one of the big polling people said that for 2024, if President Trump, the ex-President Trump, ran for office, 68% would vote for him. 68, okay. And more, even though President Trump, full disclosure, I knew him in a former life, has done some things that are just not too bright, but his leadership skills are excellent. And unfortunately, President Biden, in its early days, President Biden may turn into a great warrior leader, but so far, it doesn't look that way. And the people want to be led. They want to be led, and they want to feel secure enough that you're not going to lead them off a cliff, so the company goes out of business. Because we've had a few of those kids as well. And just as Markus said that when he was signing the contract, his hand was shaking. A lot of the kids that form a dream team and do all the things that QLA says, they're afraid to pull the trigger on deals. It's one thing analyzing the numbers till the cows come home. One of the things that he exhibits, and I recognize it clearly when he came to the hardcore a couple years ago, or 3 years, whenever it was, is the fact that he's numerant, meaning he's quick with numbers in his head, same as I am, okay? Some of you guys with calculators and computers and all this shit, you still can't figure out what the numbers are. But when you learn how to do it, it takes, 10 seconds is an exaggeration. But 60 seconds is not an exaggeration to figure out if the deal's worth a shit or not, or if the deal's worth looking closer at, okay? And this is, you don't take this to your accountant, you don't have to take this to your lawyer, you don't have to take it to your whoever. You ought to be able to just figure out. And then yes or no, or does it need more investigation? That's it. And so he's fortunate in that. And not everybody's numerant. It's not an absolute requirement to be numerant, but it makes it a little better because you can go through more deals quicker. And Markus had that ability. A few of the guys that have, in the last 4 or 5 years that have been the stars, he's the only one that I know that has exhibited that being numerant. Although the other guys are successful, they made a lot of money, but it's taken them a little longer. But last time he was on the webinar, he said he had worked 11.6 hours a day and that was down from 11.8 or 9 hours a day the year before, 365 days a year, okay. And he made the comment that it's harder in his mid-30s, because he was 2 or 3 years younger then, than it is in your early 30s or late 20s. You can just work more. You get burned out, and I know that. I know that feeling. But if you really want this, it all depends on self-esteem and how much you want it. Okay? If you're not willing to do that, then it's not going to work for you. Or you're going to be on the 10, 12-year plan. We just had a guy, 5 years, did his first deal. The longest 2 deals in the history of QLA, both Germanic. One from Austria and one from Germany was 12 and 13 years. It took him to do a deal. Their perseverance is remarkable, I'm not sure I would have lasted 12 or 13 years and never do a fucking deal. I might have blown my brains out, but so the sooner you can do a deal, the more you fill up your emotional bank account. The sooner you can do a deal, you bolster your self-esteem and self-confidence. And unfortunately, self-confidence and self-esteem are not things that you go out and learn about. You get some of it in the military, you get some of it in the athletics at a high level, not athletics at a low level. And but that that just doesn't happen too often. Markus, any words of wisdom that you'd like to pass on to the meatheads, other than don't do property deals in Austria?
Well, if you're not self-employed already or an entrepreneur, be wisely where you're going to invest. Look at the margin. They should be above 20% at least. It's easier to fix issues with 20% margin than with 2%.
Oof. Amen.
And otherwise, keep rolling when you win. Keep rolling, follow the system.
Well, I want to thank Markus. You're going to see this after the seminar, but there's a lot of jewels in the seminar. This seminar, we're going to see the people we had live last seminar. One guy, $106 million in his pocket. Another guy, and so but fair. It took him 2 years. So I don't want you to think he just stepped out the door and made $106 million. Simon, I wish he did, but it took time. And normally, unless you have a machine in process, I do not recommend that you go out dinosaur hunting for deal number one. Although we've had some successes in dinosaur hunting, but there's a higher probability that, in dinosaurs you're going to get 1 out of 5 instead of 1 out of 2. Okay, kids, we'll see you around. Thank you for your time.